Hey guys, ChessMobster here. This will be part 2 of the tournament. Currently, we have 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw. We're 1.5 out of 3. We got 3 more games going. We're white right now, and we get into a very comfortable position. We start with d4, getting space in the opening. They go d5, matching us, c4, trying to get at this pawn for activity. They go e6, declining. Knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, c6, getting this like triangle formation. Bishop g5, bishop e7, e3. So I have this setup while they have this setup. I'm very comfortable in these positions. I've had this position probably 100 times and I feel pretty comfortable. I had to ascertain here though, like I do in almost every game, if bishop h4 or bishop h4, bishop g3 idea is better, or take on f6. Taking on f6 isn't per se like the best in this, just because like this bishop will probably be better than the knight. So I bring it back. They take on c4. I get my bishop out. They go knight d5. I go g3. I have to ascertain here if I want to trade off too, but I still think preserving this bishop is very strong. They castle, I castle, they go b6, I go d3, getting this beautiful diagonal that will help me this game. They go bishop d6. Now, after looking at this game, I do think maybe this was not the best choice. I think probably not taking and going like knight e2, what the engine says, is probably more correct. You get a very maneuvering game, and you still probably keep this bishop if they don't trade. If they trade, you get your knight out. It has drawbacks really taking. And then a3, I'm actually okay with a3. I really didn't want queen b4 on the board, so I kind of want to prevent that. That inaccuracy I'm okay with. They take on c3, I go rook here, we get knight d5, kind of giving tempo, but I'm always okay with having my rook on the c-file. It's a semi-open, it kind of prevents this from being played sometimes. They go bishop d7, I go bishop b1, they go f5. Kind of what I was wanting them to play, this one, or g6. And I really think they probably should have gone e8 first, because of the tension I had from f5. F5, knight e5, bishop e8, so they kind of do the idea still. I go queen b3, kind of adding tension. I really wanted to provoke b6 or rook b8. They go rook b8, I go rook fd1. Why the engine doesn't really like queen b3 and rook fd1, and I kind of understand, is it wants rook fe1, and we usually want to push e4, like maybe f3 then e4, or just e4. So I kind of understand why it wants rook fe1, like this move instead. But we continue, and he goes bishop h5, kind of hitting this rook, but I never really understood this, because having my rook potentially double up in the future and having it on this dark square only really helps me. And then they go knight f6. Now this game was pretty much equal. I probably had like a slight advantage with like 0.5 at the time, but I still really liked my position. I was really happy with it. And they go f6. And instantly when I saw this, I knew that they made a mistake. Because of this beautiful pin, I can do bishop x f5. And they can't take because my queen on b3 is preventing that. And so I really like that I'm just up a clean pawn. And after rook fe8, I have to try to gather up this advantage more and more being up a pawn. So I go bring it back to b1, still this beautiful diagonal, knight d7, f4. These are pretty much the best moves, and after knight take e5, fx e5, this is an okay doubling because of how constricting it is, and this is a very common idea. After queen e7, I go bishop queen d3 and g5, rook f2. Also, to heads up why this structure is so strong, especially when you have these bishop and queen alive, is because these light squares are so weak, and this pawn is so weak. So you really have to exploit it, and this is what I'm trying to do. And after rook f2, rook f8, this is my really only mistake in the game. I just double up. It is kind of funny when I think about it, because later in the game I was looking at this move rook f6, but it does not work in that position. It works here because of certain nuances. So let's go over them. Like if I go, well, let's go with everything that isn't take first. So let's say I do, he does like queen f7, or no, not queen f7. He doesn't take. Let's say we say queen g7, right? Doesn't take. Now I double up, and it's kind of in a better spot. And this queen, this bishop is probably be trapped in some lines if it isn't careful. Like let's say, I mean, pretty much. No, what is the move here? I think it's just, yeah, like if they go c5, I would go queen e4, just keep gathering pressure, and these rooks are now better placed, and it doesn't go into an endgame as quick. And if he goes like rook f7, I have rook cf1, rook bf8, g4, saying, okay, get this bishop off. And if he goes here, I actually do queen g6, rook g7, and take, and I basically win the rook for the queen, and this is really good for me. Because let's say he goes like king h8, I would now win this, so that's another line. And then now let's go into the line that I think I was a little scared of. After rook take exf6, I knew that they couldn't take, because if they do take, I go queen h7, they have to go f8, and then I win the queen. So this line I was actually okay with. What I was kind of scared of was after rook f6, was take, queen, or not queen take, sorry. They go queen f7. And I thought, okay, now this is just kind of a weak pawn. But I had to think about the move I play later, which is queen e4. This gains activity. I have the same idea. If he takes here, I go queen h7, rook f1, and I'm threatening g4. So it becomes really hard to play this after this. If they go rook f8, I go rook f1. They go g4, saying, okay, but like I want to save my bishop. I actually just go queen f4, threatening this pawn, saying I'm going to win this pawn back, basically. So they have to go like g6 really, and I take. This is pinned, and I just keep collecting pawns, and this is a really good position. So really, this was my biggest miss in the game, not playing that rook f6 move. We double up. They take on f2, and then they go, saying, okay, you know, we're going to go into this worse endgame. And they're kind of, and now I see queen e4, something I probably should have seen earlier, seeing how active it keeps my queen. And I didn't go rook f6 here, and this is what I mean as I thought about it later in the game, was because after rook take, ex, queen h7, king f8, queen takes b7, even though I do get my pawn back, it doesn't, bishop b2, queen b4, king there, and queen here. It doesn't seem right, and this is why I prefer to do queen e4. I just didn't want this kind of position. So I'm happy to do a rook f6 there. So queen e4, take, here, get my king active, and then the guy just blunders their piece here. Like if they did not do this, I would still be up a pawn. It would be hard to convert fully. I think time was also getting to them, but they do play bishop g4. And I think if they played g4, I really just would have continued with b4, and this would have still been a game. But after queen x g4, losing the piece, I pretty much convert from here, just up like, literally like a bishop and a few pawns. We just keep playing here, and then I promote, and he eventually resigns here because there's nothing to do here. This was arguably my best played game this tournament. I probably was the most accurate this tournament. I got a bread and butter opening that I play all the time, that I flourish in a middle game position that I knew most of the ideas in. Now on to the next, where I think I struggle a little bit more. Sorry guys, I go to my, there we go. Let's duplicate that real quick. Perfect. Let's go into this one. Yes, this was my second game of the tournament, or I mean, second game, or so it was my fifth game. Yeah, it was my fifth game and second game that I'm going over. Here we go. So we go e4, well, first of all, I'm black. go here. They go e4, we go e6, they go d4, we go d5, they go knight c3, we go dx c4, knight x c4, and we get a very similar position that we had the first game and the previous video that we went over. The only difference is they don't go bishop d3, they actually they take the knight. Like instead they didn't do this like bishop d3 idea, which I actually do argue that the line that this person goes for is actually better, because it does make it a little bit more uncomfy for me, and I kind of have to play h6 when they go knight f3, because I don't want, like, let's say I play some random move like c5, bishop g5 becomes very annoying for me, so I do go h6, bishop d3, bishop d6, castle, knight c6, c3, and then I played bishop d7. This move and castling by me next move really made me struggle and have to play really hard moves this game. Though I do want to show why I had flawed positional thinking in this game, because I do think it's kind of educational. If they, if I didn't go bishop d7, right, and I just castled, what I was worried about was, even though I've done this like analysis I think a long time before, I just was a little bit confused I think in the game. Is after queen e2 and e5, the main idea of this opening, and queen e4, I have to play g6, prevent mate. I'm actually not worried about bishop take h6 because of bishop f5. And it's a very hard thing to go into and over the board, but I have to really go for it because there's not really any moves that they have here that really helps them. And I'm most likely either going to get the pawn back or have so much activity for the pawn. Because what happens if they do dx c5, I go knight x c5, I win this bishop. If they go queen e3, I go ex d4, and they would have to do either bishop x f5 would be a blunder, because I take the queen, obviously, or knight x, I'd go rook f8, moving away from that bishop, hitting attack on the queen, and I would be winning a pawn in this scenario. And here, I just unpin, and I don't think I win a pawn here. They would have to go queen d2, I would go bishop f g4. I can't do, I mean, I can do this. I think this is okay. But I didn't really want to go into this per se. So, but this would be basically what would happen if I went for, I think, a more accurate and more characteristic line in this opening. But instead we go bishop d7. I think we kind of wanted to have the ideas of maybe wanting to castle both sides. But after rook fe1, knight castle, and b4, I go king b8, bishop d2, g5. So basically, I'm trying to attack on this side. This is kind of what I think I was thinking about over the board, was I really wanted to attack, have an attacking game, which I think the other line that I showed earlier would have sufficed more. But this game does have some really fun turns. After queen e2, bishop c8, I'm actually kind of like trying to unpin or trying to uncramp and kind of have this like attack that I can maybe have along these files with these pawns and all this. And they're basically trying to do the same with like a4, b5, and all this. So after b4, I think I considered what I'm supposed to play. I played knight e7, but what I should have played was g4, because this actually makes a really fun game. After like knight e5, I would do knight x d5 here, and this actually isn't losing a piece because I get to win one of the bishops. And let's say instead they went bx c6 in this line. I would actually go gx f3, having an attack on the queen. And after queen x, gx f3 here, I would be in a better game than I definitely get into with knight e7. After a4, I go b6. This is another move where I missed, I think, multiple knight moves in this middle game. I'm really supposed to go knight g6, basically trying to activate this knight, and there's actually some cool lines with a5 being a blunder because of g4. And knight here doesn't really work because I'd win it, and that's actually really the only move you have. Because knight here blunders the knight, there's no other pieces for his knight, so they kind of have to go knight e5, and then I would win the knight like this, and have the same idea like from before. Or, oh, you have to do queen x, sorry. and then that would be that position. But instead, they went a5, or I didn't go b6, or I went b6 instead of knight g6, and they go a5. This is very difficult for me to defend. I try the best I can with bishop b7, and they played bishop e4, trying to claim this light square diagonal. I actually thought in this game I was dead lost after this because of like bishop take, queen take, and like a later a6 mating on b7. But I realized after bishop x c4 queen x, I have this very lucky move, queen f5, challenging this queen, saying, okay, let's go into an endgame. I can maybe survive there more. So they say, you know, no, I want to keep my queens on. I go rook hg8, best move in this position, just trying to activate and gather some counterplay. They go rook a4, I go king b7. This is actually really interesting why I went king b7. I was really scared of them maybe forming, this is a term if anyone wants to look up, it's called like Alekhine's gun. What it is in chess, it's like two rooks here and a queen, and basically it's this really powerful weapon that can be really dangerous for the opponent. And I was kind of scared of that, even though it doesn't really work as much as I thought it did, because I can actually sometimes get my king all the way here, and this is actually a common idea I missed a lot. And I would calculate all these lines where I really thought the only way I could really play this was king b7, rook here, and like knight c8. And honestly, I do have knight c8 a lot of the time. That's actually what saves me a lot of this game. But why he doesn't play a lot of lines. But they go, like that's why instead of b7, I actually should go g6 though, because I actually have this idea that I didn't realize. But instead, let me show you why knight g6 would have been better though. After knight g6, rook a1, king c8, ax b6, ax b6, c4, king d7. It looks really dangerous, and this would be really hard for me to defend. But this is what I would have to go into if I wanted to survive, probably. And they go g3. I would go king e7, bishop c1, rook g8, knight d2, and then like get my king somehow to f8. But in reality, I play b7, and they go rook a1, kind of having the same idea. I go rook a8, and then really, again, I should go for the c8 idea, but I go rook a8, they go queen c4, I go queen d5, and here I'm just like saying, okay, if we do trade queens, I would be happy. I think it would be pretty equal, actually, yeah. So that's why they don't trade queens. But it's very interesting that I'm really trying to trade off, and how well they try to cancel it off. But then I thought, okay, this is what I would do if I was white. I'm in a better position. I would keep the queens on the board. Well, after queen d3 and queen f5, they play queen e2 and offer a draw. I think they have nothing else but doing this queen thing. I do find that kind of funny because positionally I know that I'm teetering on almost losing because of like c4, and I knew c4 lines were really bad for me. Though I did not take the draw because they had significantly lower time. They were around 10 minutes going near to 5, and I probably had like 20 something. And I knew that if we got into an endgame, I could maybe outplay them in time pressure. So that's why I play h5, saying, okay, I'm going to still be fighting. After ax b6, I do want to show you, show people this, is if c4, right, the most terrifying move, I was calculating like h4, ax b6, cx b6. It wants me to do this ax b6 move, but I really don't like trading rooks. I go c5, bx, this is what I calculated, and I thought I was completely losing after b6. But after ax b6, rook xa8, rook xa8, rook xa8, I thought I had to do king x, and they would win with queen b1. Oh, sorry. They would win with queen a6, king b8, queen x b6, winning this bishop. So I thought I was completely losing here if they found that line with c4. But in reality, instead of taking when the rook is hanging, I actually go queen f1, or king b1, sorry. And if they go knight e1, I would now be able to take the rook. If they ever block with the queen, I'd take and still take the rook. So I actually was a little bit better than I thought, luckily, because of this b1 idea. Or I at least didn't think he had the c4 idea. So That's kind of why I didn't do AX B6 for a while, or was scared of C4. So I go H5, AX B6, CX B6, Queen C4. I go G4, wanting an attack. They go Knight U1. I go Knight D, Queen D5, still wanting an endgame because I still think I can get them into it. Queen F5, Queen E2, H4, G3, and then H3, saying I can maybe eventually. It says that this, but it's actually an okay move. Saying, hey, maybe if your knight isn't here, I can maybe get my queen here. But they're actually scared of that now too, so they go D3. A mistake, really, because I do get into an endgame. Now, they go under 5 minutes here and stop notating. This is an equal game for both of us now. And I am kind of right in what I thought earlier. We went into an endgame and I kind of outplayed them like halfway because I got a pawn in a rook pawn endgame that I'm positive is winning. But we both we struggle in that end game, and they go down under a minute, down even to 1 second, but it's 5 second delay, and they just defend amazingly. They defend so amazingly. I get also down to like 1 minute, and I just accept the draws, or I offer a draw, and I think they accept, or I know they accept. And it was very impressive how they defended, and it was basically like I had a pawn here, I had my king here, a pawn here, this was basically the same setup, I think, of the pawns, and I could not get my king out and my rook here, and I thought it was the Lucina position, where, if anyone wants to look that one up, where I can get my rook to, like, b4, or, like, on the 4th rank, but I just could not do it for some reason, because his king would always be attacking my rook. So it was really strange, and a player later was all recommending that maybe I just bring my rook here and gather these pawns, and I think they may have been right, because I think other people were saying, yeah, maybe the Lucina position didn't work here, but it was very weird, and very good defense from my opponent. So we drew there. Now let me go to the last game of the tournament. Currently we are 2 draws, 2 wins, 1 loss. So that's like we have 3 points out of 4, and we go. Well, no, 3 points out of 5, and we go into the 6th round. Um, It was this one. I really didn't mess up, basically showing you guys the results of the game. But heads up for everyone, I mentioned earlier, I think the first game of this video, the 4th game of the tournament, and said that was my best played game. Well, this is actually my favorite game, and it was not because the guy is like 22,000 rated. It was mainly because I took something from a game that I lost this tournament to help me in this game. The game that I lost, I really learned something and was able to use it. So we go into a very similar line that I went into with that guy. D4, knight f6, knight c3. See a lot of Frenches that we played here. It was very much fun. And after knight c3, e6, e4, d5, bishop g5, bishop e4. Again, just to show everyone, this line doesn't work after e5 because I have h6. And if they go into it, exf6, hxg5, fxg7, rook g8, a3, bishop xc3, bxc3. I have like queen f6. There's definitely other lines than the line I just showed you after they get this pawn to g7, but in all of them, pretty much, I am going to win this pawn back, and it becomes a really fun game. But I prefer black here, and that's why I think they go bishop e3. Now, bishop e3 was a little bit different. Usually I see bishop d2, so after this I was a little thrown off, but to be honest, it isn't that much different. Like, when he does e3, I immediately go knight e4, though, basically with that nuance, and after queen g4, I go g6, defending this g7 pawn. They go a3, I then take, and this line was very strange to me, because I really had to think of the board to positionally understand it, and I realized they were really sacking a pawn for activity and misplacing my knight, and I had to somehow defend well and unwrap this knight. So that was basically my game plan as black, and I do it in some ways, but in some ways I think they didn't, but they could have probably played that way more, trying to attack that knight and playing more attacking here, and I think that would have probably been better for them. They go bishop d3, I go queen e7. Again, I don't really unwrap the certain way that I should. The engine here has a really disgusting line, which I kind of understand, because I know that I should play c5 in a lot of these structures. I thought just queen e7, knight d7 to prepare it was better, but I'm really just supposed to sack the pawn back for development. So I'm supposed to go like a bishop d7, h4, c5, and after dx c5, I go knight c6. Saying these are double isolated. I mean, these are just horrible pawns. After some line like bishop d2, I go queen a5. I was like, I would never. It was very hard to play this. After like a knight e2, I would go d4, and knight x d4, queen x c5, and this would be a game. But instead, they go after queen e7, they go h4. I go knight d7 again, going for that c5 push. Then they go f4. Now, when they played this move, I instantly thought it was bad because of the moves I play later, and I thought it disconnects the queen from like these type of moves. It kind of hinders the bishop when the bishop really should have scope here for now. I would have honestly been not happy and a little bit in a harder position if they played bishop d2. Again, they really need to just worsen this knight as much as possible. And after bishop d2, like knight a4, I really am not as comfortable as I would want to be in this position. So they go h5, and if you're wondering, after knight a4 and they go bishop b5, I can go just like knight b6, and I'm actually completely fine. So after h5, so yeah, after f4, I'm basically realizing I have to play h5 because I do want to show one line. I don't even think I really want to. I really look that I had to really calculate over the game. Let's say I play some random move like a6. h5 is actually a little bit terrifying to go against. It's really hard to defend this. I'm curious what it says. It actually just says I take on h5, which would be really scary to do. So that's why I really can't just do like a throwaway move in this position, because h5 just looks terrifying. And after I play h5, I kind of try to close up the king side as much as possible and go for the queen side. So after h5, queen f3, I go c5. I really like, and then after f4, I pretty much got everything I wanted from the position. And then after g4, I go c4. Now, this is what I mean I learned from the previous loss. I play c4 in a time I need to. I didn't and lost that game. I don't think it was just because of c4 I lost, because of a lot of other reasons. But I finally learned that c4 is good in this position. After bishop f1, I go b5. I actually am okay with b5 as an inaccuracy. Like, I would still have played it. The reason why is I didn't like knight e4, even though it is actually the best move to play. Because after gx h5, rook h5, I thought bishop x c4 was an annoying tactic. But I'm actually just supposed to go knight b6, activate my pieces. Bishop b5, I would want even more activity. And this is actually a decent position. But I go b5 saying, okay, but when I get knight e4, I don't want to have to worry about this tactic because I can take with the pawn. It's kind of how I assumed it. And it basically is what happened when it did. Because after bishop d2, knight e4, bishop b4, queen d8, it's basically like I have a really good position. And after a4, I go queen b6. Again, I probably should just take here, and it really looks awkward for his rook and bishop to be here, and I have moves like a5 in the future. And after queen b6, but I still like queen b6 because I really thought he would go for, like he would try to take here, which is just a bad move. And after c3, I go bx c4. And I have mixed feelings about this because I wanted them to take with the rook because I knew I'd be trapping some piece here, but I really should have just played a5 anyways. I didn't like it because I thought b5, ax b4, I'd just be losing a rook, or losing the exchange. But in actuality, after that, these pawns are just dominating. Like after rook a1, hx g4, queen x g4, displacing the queen even more, I get g3, I'm going to win this pawn. I'm down in exchange, but for two basically, well, pass pawns. So when position looking like it, it's a little scary to play with my king here, but you have to understand in positions like these, you can be better, and I was. So really, this is what I should have, if I want to be a little, well, I just, now I positionally understand more now about it. After there, he goes rook, and then I go a5. And this is just completely winning a piece. because you can't go like bishop a3 because I go queen b3, they go queen here defending the rook, I go here, and this is just a beautiful, beautiful winning another pawn, and their king is just horrible. After king e2, I'd go something like queen g3, knight h3, queen xg4, king e1, queen take h4. I just keep gobbling up pieces or pawns, and this is just completely bad for him. I even have like, probably even have knight here at that point, but yeah. Or if, like, let's say they go rook a1, because honestly I thought they would play this move, I would still go hxg4, queen xg4, and then axb4. And I thought we would get into something like this where the same idea, but it's crazy. I can actually go bxc3, and this is just straight losing. I go like king e7, and this pawn is pretty much impossible to stop. So, because like let's say they go, I don't know, like rook h2, I'm pretty sure I still go like c2, and they can't do rook x c2 because there's queen ideas. I think it even I have it shown. I think yeah. So after c2 and they do rook x c2, I can go queen b4. Again, the king only has 2 moves, and if it goes e2, I have b1, trapping the rook. Literally, the rook has nowhere to go. And that's amazing. So after e2, and if they go d1, more confusing, I go like b1, c1, b3, c2, wanting to get the rook in a certain place. This is just, yeah, this is not good. I can even win I think, yeah, it's my move, and I can even go like knight f2 here to win the queen. And instead, if they went king e1, I can even go queen b4, wanting the rook to be on c1 to displace the king even more. After king e2, queen d2, here, mate. So basically, these are why he didn't do other moves than like rook h2. And after rook h2, he's basically saying, if he gets his rook here, I can never really take because he just has this rook hanging, right? And in that way, in that line, it would be better for him because he's doubled up rooks. I have to realize, how can I defend this rook? Let's turn off lines. How can I defend this rook while also attacking this? And I find the right move. I go rook a6, defending with this beautiful bishop, and just making it just horrible for him to play. He goes bxc4, I go dxc4. I could have actually been more accurate and played this really confusing line. I was actually looking at other lines he could play, and all of them were pretty much bad. After like bishop d6, I can go like hxg4, queen b1, queen d1, queen x, and then winning a nice fork. So after dxc4, this is still a good line. Like I didn't mind going into it because I'm up a piece. And then after rook a1, king f2, I go queen here, basically having this nice battery. My pieces are very well coordinated, and he has to try to survive this. After f5, I thought this was a great try by him, because objectively it is bad, but I'm never going to play what the, well, because of course I don't know what the engine says, but I would never, I don't know in a million years, play what the engine is suggesting, which is hxg4 allowing fx e6, and I'm never going to take here, but it doesn't even want that, it wants g3. Saying king sg3, rook sg1, king f2, queen a1, and I'm surviving here. If after ex f7, king x f7, king there, and then king g7, I'm completely safe, and a lot of other lines I'm completely safe. But I play probably a more human move and go gx f5, saying, and I have a really nice trick with this move actually. So I have 2 landmines I kind of set up. After gx5, gx5, ex5, this pawn is poisonous to take, because after queen x5, I have rook a2, and they have to go knight e2. If they don't, they go like g3, I go rook g. I'm still going to win the knight. If they go knight e2, I would go rook take e2, temporarily sacking the exchange to win the other rook. So that's why I think they didn't take on f5, so they go queen c6 instead of taking on f5, and I go a8. Now this is honestly one of my least favorite moves by me in the game, because the endgame isn't necessarily easy to win. I probably should just go like another like simple move, like let's say king. I mean, I would never play king d8 or king e7, but I guess that's really what it wants from me. And they were on my radar, but they're really hard to understand and see. Like, I thought even after king e7, queen d6, king d8, like, this is just really hard to deal with. But I kind of understand the gist of what it's saying. But I go queen a8, and instead they do my second landmine, which I never thought they were going to take on c4. I really thought they were going to go into the endgame, but they go c4, and I go bishop a6. I had this trap laid out, and I really didn't think they would take this pawn, but they went for it, and it was mostly smooth from here. After queen b3, I have mate, and rook f1, king e3, queen here, and he actually even pointed out here I had mate with d3, but I just go for a mate I saw earlier, which was queen e1 here, and then queen c1. This concludes the tournament, Late Spring Swiss. I got 3 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. I got 3rd place overall. I learned a lot from it, and it helped me as a chess player. I hope you guys learned from it somewhere too. It was nice seeing you guys, chess thugs, and we'll have a new video out next week. And ChessMobster, out.